What's wrong with you people?
Welcome to Not Another Baptist Podcast. My name is Matt Hensley, the pastor of Plymouth Park Baptist Church, and I'm joined from Alpharetta, Georgia, I think, by Dr. Kyle, non-alcoholic beerman himself, who is at the Replant Summit, the Replant Conference, the Replant what?
Yeah, the Replant Summit. Yeah.
Hey, I got it right the first time. I'm proud of you, Kyle. Can I just say that I'm grateful for my cooperative program funds that provide that particular name badge. That is a really cool name badge.
It is, yeah. And I don't think these are made with cooperative program funds. I think these are just made by a guy here at NAM that I'm actually not sure, but there's a guy here at NAM that makes them.
I need you to tell Kevin, by golly, I want our cooperative program funding to provide all staff with a second wood name badge. That are listening to this can't listen or can't hear. But
yeah,
anyway, it's good to see you. It's also good to see the Rangers. I guess maybe they're not cheating this year as much. I don't really know what happened to that, but they're kind of like, they're like Henson, one-hit wonders in the baseball world. I was hoping I would make a run like us, but it looks like, back to.
And I saw today that the Mariners are firing their manager, even though they're still kind of in a phase. They're not completely out of it, but they're firing their manager.
Lockdown Crawford Street. The parade is on. We have re-signed Hector the Dog Neris. Nobody's listening to this that cares about that. We're not talking about baseball. We're not talking about Kyle's bald head. We're definitely not talking about his wonderful, amazing-looking name badge. I'm disappointed it doesn't say non-alcoholic on it. Well, no. That's actually what NAM stands for. The Non-Alcoholic Mission Board.
It is in my contract that I will be a non-alcoholic employee. So there you
go.
Yeah.
Well, today, speaking of Kyle going to Alpharetta, students all across the country are going back to college. Just last week, I was at Dallas Baptist University, great college here in DF-Dub, and I was there for a chance to pray with pastors, and we walked around the campus. Some of them were smart enough to actually go to buildings and pray. Yours truly decided, let's walk around the campus. That wasn't a great idea because it was August 2024 and it's 1,000,000 degrees outside. But I did go to their Chick-fil-A and I got me an ice cold Dr. Pepper. It was
love it.
But as college students are going back, it's a great reminder of some trends when it comes to reaching them for the gospel. So that's not to say everybody, obviously, at Dallas Baptist University are Baptists, let alone Christians. But as we do go back to college, back to school, and so forth, we do have students that are lost, students that might be unengaged or de-churched or all of that sort of thing. And so there are some trends when it comes to evangelism and reaching college students and young adults. Kyle Paul
It's either Worcester or Worcester. He works at NAM. I should know him. I don't know. I'm going to go with Worcester.
Worcester. Paul Worcester on Lifeway Research. Paul, I'm sorry for saying your last name was Worcestershire sauce or whatever. But you have a great article that's digging into some of these trends and these stats. And so I just want to go through the 5 of them there. Number 1, college students are more open to the gospel than I've ever seen. Kyle, talk about that, because that's not the case. Everybody hates us. Everybody hates the gospel. What's the deal? Why are they more open to the gospel than ever?
Yeah, he says that people often come to Christ in trouble and transition, and college, especially for incoming college students, it can provide a little bit of both of those things. Big transition, a little bit of trouble, not necessarily that doesn't mean all college students are getting into trouble. It just means like they hit kind of maybe some white water in their lives as they're hitting that major transition between being a high school student, being at home, to being kind of a free college student in some ways. And so I think a lot of times you just have college presents opportunities for students to ask some questions that maybe they haven't before. Worldview questions, life defining questions like, who am I? What am I going to do? I'm in this major. I don't like it. I've got to change things. What is the plan for my life? And that can leave them open to the truth of the gospel as they are searching, asking some of the big questions in their lives.
Yeah, definitely. I know some of the friends, Paul says, that a student makes in the first weeks on campus often impact the rest of their lives. And this is why
Yeah,
so many
absolutely.
colleges, especially BSMs that are on Christian colleges, but maybe even, Texas A&M and University of Texas, maybe not there, Texas Tech, all of that stuff, where those first weeks, you usually have like the BSM throwing out, those college nights or
Yeah,
the church nights where, people have booths, and it might just be a booth with a bunch of business cards for the pastor and some Starbucks gift cards, but the connections that you will make there are incredibly valuable. Now, we've also talked on this podcast before about yours truly, that I think has like maybe less than 5 friends from his time in college. In fact, one of the best men in my wedding happened to just be the guy that was sitting next to me on a day in English class when I needed to find one more groomsman. And I didn't know him. I don't even know his name. I look at his photo and our pictures, and I still don't know what his name is. But I literally, did we not talk about this on the show?
no, but
Okay.
that is one of the most Matt Hensley stories that
Yeah,
I've ever heard.
I needed one more because Rebecca had another bridesmaid, whatever, and she's like, "Who is your seventh?" I said, "No, I only needed to get 6." And she's like, "No, you needed 7." I was like, "I don't have 7 friends. Like, you don't understand. I'm lucky to have 6." And so anyway, that literal day in class, the guy next to me, I don't even know his name, and I've thought about like posting that picture sometime. Does anybody know this guy? Anybody tell me who this is? But anyway, I looked to my right. I said, "Hey, what are you doing on Saturday?" "I don't know. Like, I don't have anything." I said, uh, you want some barbecue?" And he said, "Yeah, I need some barbecue." "Good. Come to my wedding, and we'll have some barbecue." And he was like, when is it? I said, "It's this Saturday at 2 o'clock, and I just need one more groomsman. Could you do it for me?" He said, I can't get a tuxedo." I said, "Oh, I'm glad you asked. This is going to be black pants and a red shirt. You got this, and I'll go buy it for you." And so we got, and like, so that was my 7th groomsman. I don't even know his name. Anyway, for everybody else, that's the time that a student makes those first friends that are going to make a lifetime of impact for them. And so that's such a key point, as you talked about, a time of transition where there's uncertainty. Who am I? What am I doing? Why am I here? Am I missing home? Am I missing mama, daddy, whatever it might be? Have I just broke up with my girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it might have been, because 10 hours is too far? That's a great moment, not to manipulate, but to reach and encourage and kind of meet them where they are. Because as he says, the problem is not in the harvest. The harvest is plentiful. They're out there. We just need to go. And so they're willing to have those conversations. We need to go out and have them because they're open to them, especially in that time of transition, which leads us to number 2. College students tend to flock together. I knew that because across from DBU, or across the highway from DBU, across the lake from DBU, there was an IHOP kind of up the road a little bit. And dude, on like Friday nights, Saturday nights, that was like the DBU place. You could see all the DBU folks there, studying for exams, whatever it might have been, all hours of the night. But birds of a feather flock together. It rings true
It's
of
true.
Gen Z, though, more than any other generation, Paul says. And so let's talk about how they flock together and how maybe you could find 1 or 2 folks from that small group of friends that can maybe lead you to many more. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, this is just the natural progression of, if you reach part of a group of friends, more than likely they're going to bring their friends along, right? I mean, we saw this happen in Alamogordo with the Air Force folks who were there. We reached a family, and suddenly in a couple of weeks we had 3 or 4 Air Force families, because they told their friends, "Hey, we're going to church here. Why don't you join us?" Same thing will happen with college students. If you can reach 1 or 2, you're going to reach more as they bring their friends along. And so, I mean, look, when we got to Alamogordo, my first prayer was, Lord, send us a couple, like send us an Air Force couple. I can't get on base. Like, so I'm willing to do the hard work to build the relationship. Just send us somebody through the door. And he did. And so maybe that's your prayer, you know, I mean, you're out trying to interact with students in your community. Pray, Lord, send us a student, send us a couple of students. And from there, we'll work to build the relationship and see if he doesn't do it. But yeah, this is one where if you can get a core, you will see more and more students come in
Yep.
for sure.
And one of the ways that you can draw them, other than pizza, is passionate worship and prayer. So
Yeah.
you need, he doesn't have this in here. I'm just saying, if he added P, he would have a good little 3-point alliteration, not alliteration. What do you call it? Yeah, alliteration.
Yeah.
Like an
Yeah.
acronym. Passionate pizza, passionate worship, passionate prayer, and you got it. And go for it. But Gen Z, he says, longs for experiential encounters with God, and prayer and worship have marked some of those recent movements of revival on college campuses the last couple of years. I'm not going to dig into the whole worship is more than just the music and so forth, but it's such an encouragement to be reminded that these folks they care about feeling like they're actually experiencing and sensing God's presence. And so talk about that.
And here's what I would say to that, though. This doesn't mean that you gotta put up a rock band and sing Bethel and Hillsong.
Yep.
You can worship passionately to
Correct.
hymns.
You need elevation.
You can worship you can worship passionately with a piano and organ. It's just whatever you do needs to be done well, and you need to make sure that especially the leaders believe what they're singing, right? You don't want someone up there singing blessed assurance and you're not convinced that they are blessed or assured.
Hey, pro tip here, where my pastor's at, raise your hand. All right, you lead the way.
Oh yes,
so,
indeed.
Yes, obviously your worship guy, you want it, not acting, not performing or whatever, you want it to be authentic, all of that kind of stuff, but passionate. Obviously, if they're up there, like you talk about, blessed assurance, Jesus is mine, and look like they're singing a funeral dirge, that's not very great, and that's not very passionate. But pastor, be up front, up close, be engaged, be singing, be just passionate, like lead you're not, and I'm not, anyway, I'm not going to talk about worship pastor, music minister, all that kind of stuff, but you truly are the worship pastor, and you are the lead worshiper in that church. And so you can set the standard and really set a model. And you might be 60 years old, but those Gen Z folks seeing you engaged in the worship matters to them.
Yeah. And this really leads right into the next part, which is God is still using bold gospel preaching to transform lives. So you need passionate worship. Again, style, I don't think matters. You got to believe what you're singing. It's got to be done well. And then preach the gospel. And again, you don't have to be the next Spurgeon.
Yes, you do.
But believe what you're preaching and make it obvious that you believe what you're preaching. Proclaim the gospel.
I
preach the word. Yeah, I declare. And trust that as you preach, God is forming people into the image of Christ. It's not going to happen overnight, but there's power in the gospel as it's preached, and people will be drawn to that.
And you don't have to try and force like the lingo into it, like
Yes, you don't have to speak about mid and riz, and
they've done a sin and fallen short of the glory, the riz of God.
Jesus had mad salvation riz. No, don't do that.
Save that for Cameron Crowe and Student, but just be yourself and bold.
Yes, and bold gospel preaching doesn't mean you have to be angry. It doesn't mean that you have to. It doesn't mean you have to go full Pentecostal. Believe what you preach, and trust that God's word is word.
Like, you got to believe it. Name it.
The bigger the heresy, the louder the preaching. There you go.
bolder the heresy, the better. No, we do. Somebody's going to take when you run for president one day. They're going to take that clip. Number 5, student leaders and student interns can accelerate your ministry. We're connected with not Southwestern, Dallas Baptist University, and with their intern program, and are excited about that because that also, again, talking about that flocking and so forth, you may have some of those interns that can pour into your ministry and fill some of those holes that you may have. Even if you're a small church, outside of Lubbock, reach out to Texas Tech, BSM. I don't know that all of those kinds of things exist, but it may have that conversation. Hey, do you got anybody that may have some experience with music, may have some experience with youth? We could really use some help. And you may not only get that person, but maybe their friends and those that come with them. And hey, out of nowhere, feed them on a Sunday, dude. Like, college students are usually not rolling in the dough. They will come for some food and stay for some ministry. So,
and here's the thing. It can be Little Caesars or Whataburger. I mean, you don't have to bring out the big food. You just do food and folks show up.
Well, there's
and the last thing I was going to say was whether you have paid positions or volunteer positions or whatever, invite the student leaders to lead, give them opportunities to lead, maybe give some young men the opportunity to preach, and just see what God does as you are generous with the opportunities, generous with the platform, generous with the leadership, and see how God raises up leaders in the next generation.
Well, we got to wrap up. Kyle is going back into the room for the next great guest that's going to be preaching for them, which is Dr. Jamie Dew. One man that loves me, so Jamie Dew. We're always grateful for our time when we're going on vacation and so forth that you can go through New Orleans Seminary, just stop by and say hi or visit around, and because a lot of great things are happening there. But we really, there's a lot more to this article, including some of the stats that are behind it, some more keys to maybe dig into some of these 5 elements and trends and find some ways that you can make this happen in your church and so forth. But Paul Worcestershire has a great article. We'll put it in the show notes. And until next time, may your coffee be as black as night and as bold as the gospel you declare. Right, Kyle?
Absolutely.
What's wrong with you people?